SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Toyota of Brookhaven has been voted best new car dealership in Southwest Mississippi 4 years in a row. Come see the difference. Exit 40 Brookhaven or online at toyotabrookhaven.com. Great service, great savings. At Toyota of Brookhaven, we deliver.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21. I want you to believe me, baby. I have lots of fun.
Good morning and welcome. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Streaming at supertalk.fm, SuperTalk TV. Of course, on your radios, a dozen SuperTalk Mississippi radio stations across the state of Mississippi, and we are thrilled to be with you. And I am thrilled to be back at home. Not that I am not grateful for the studio here in Oxford. I am. It was home for a long time, but kind of partial to my office and our setup here and the lighting and the backdrop and everything. And so it's good to be back, and we got power back yesterday, Lance. How about that?
Woohoo!
Yes. Now,
I'm happy for you, honestly.
Thank you.
Goodness, I was talking to a couple of folks in the Delta yesterday that still were dealing with the same issues. So,
yeah.
Happy that it's coming back around.
And I hope I never complained about not having power because we were in so much better shape than a lot of people were. We had places we could go and had generator and the whole deal. But even so, it is good to have the power back on. The only issue that we're having at this point is the flickering. And I don't know. It's like the signal is not quite as steady and as strong as it should be. And
ghost in the machine.
Yeah, maybe of some sort. And it's something where I feel like I've got to call the utility company. Like I've got to report this at Northeast, but I just can't imagine that would be terribly high on their priority list right now. And I kind of feel bad even bothering them when there's still over 5,000 people in Lafayette County that don't have power at all. It's like maybe I ought to put up with the flickering for a little while. But anyway.
It's kind of candlelight almost, you know.
Or like our Twilight Zone strobe.
Yeah.
You know, depending on how it's shaking out. It's good to be with you. Pontotoc, you've got cloudy skies today with a high of 42. A little chilly. Winds out of the north and northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Leland, a mix of clouds and sunshine today for you. 44 degrees, 10 to 20 mile per hour winds out of the north. I have a hunch that north wind is going to feel cold today. Taylorsville, you've got intervals of clouds and sunshine. You're going to check in around 50 degrees, 10 to 15 mile an hour wind, again, out of the north, northwest. Be a little warmer in Wiggins. Cloudy skies early, followed by partial clearing. Slight chance of a rain shower and high of 58. But again, pretty significant breeze out of the north. All depends on the time of year, right?
Oh, yeah.
If it's August and you have been sweating like crazy and you happen to see that rare, there's going to be a breeze out of the north, and you're like, oh, man, it's going to knock the humidity back. It may be 100 degrees outside or 90 degrees outside, but it's only going to feel like 78. Just paradise. And then, when it's 50 and you get that north wind in March and you really want the spring to be there, it's like just miserable. Miserable. Ferdinand Magellan was born on this day in 1480. The Portuguese explorer of the East Indies and the Pacific Ocean. He was born in, you want to give this one a shot, Lance, or you want me to do it?
Which we got here? We got Tres on Montes Aduaro, Portugal. Huh? Yeah. He's also the guy that if you're take a very circuitous route to a baseball in the outfield, you definitely have taken the route of Magellan.
Yes. Yes. Ball's in the air and somebody's yelling, "Go in a straight line, Magellan." German politician Ludwig Erhard played a crucial role in the economic recovery of West Germany after World War II. He was born on this day in 1897. He's best known for his leadership in the Wirtschaftswunder, translated the economic miracle that transformed the country's economy in the 1950s and 60s. During World War II, Erhard developed ideas for post-war economic recovery despite the Nazi government's disapproval. After the war, he led efforts to reform the currency and in price and production controls. As Minister of Economic Affairs and Chancellor under Chancellor Adenauer, served in that role for about 14 years. He promoted a social market economy, balancing free market policies with social welfare programs. So, Germany was in about as bad a place as you could be economically post-World War II. And the combination of Ludwig Erhard and a lot of American and other European financiers and really smart bank people pulled themselves out of it. Charles Lindbergh he was born on this day in 1902. First to fly solo across the Atlantic. Born in Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah, and the craziest story of all time, too, with the 1932 kidnapping and the murder of his 20-month-old son, Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr., by, as many believed and many don't believe, Bruno Richard Hauptmann did that. The crime of the century.
Mm.
And, months later, they found the young baby's body, like, really close to the house of the Lindberghs, and a truck driver or a bus driver is who had found it. So it was a horrible situation, though. But 1932.
What was Bruno's beef with Lindbergh?
It looks, and it always seemed to be a larger conspiracy. He was an immigrant, a German immigrant carpenter. He was convicted and executed for the crime, but many believe that it was a much bigger plot.
He was the scapegoat?
Yeah, he was the patsy, so to speak.
Okay. Byron Nelson, great American golfer, born on this day in 1912. He won 5 major titles and a record 19 tournaments in 1945. 19 of them in 1 year. Born in Fort Worth, Texas. Rosa Parks was born on this day, February the 4th, 1913. Civil rights activist who refused most famously to give up her seat on a bus to a white passenger. She was born in Tuskegee, Alabama. Alice Cooper is 77 today. The theatrical rock singer and songwriter. School's out. Welcome to my nightmare. He was a Detroit, Michigan native.
What was his real name again? It was, Vincent Fernier. Yeah. That's a good change. Good change.
Quite roll off the tongue as well as Alice Cooper. Lawrence Taylor was born on this day in 1959. Pro Football Hall of Fame linebacker with the New York Football Giants. Couple of Super Bowl titles, an MVP of the entire league in 1986. He was the 3-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Got that award in 81, 82, and again in 86. 8 times named a first-team All-Pro, born in Williamsburg, Virginia. Lance, which brings me to my next point. Mm-hmm. Don't smoke crack.
Yeah. I ran into that guy down in Miami. It had to be like 2002 or 3 range.
I hope it was a gentle bump.
Well, walking the streets around whatever the beach highway is there, and it's just crowded full of people, and you could see him coming a mile off. The dude is huge, man. He stands out even after he was done playing. I mean, that's LT, man. I mean, he was a really nice guy though. As passed by and speak to him, he was really approachable and personable, which was one of the unique things. I think you don't run into that very much on the streets when you run into some extremely famous person. But you could see him coming a mile away. He was huge, man.
C Spire text line is open to you, 601-879-4395. Visit them online at cspire.com. C Spire, customer inspired. 1962, that's the year that Clint Black was born. Killing time, nothing but the taillights. He was born in Long Branch, New Jersey. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross, just getting started with you. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Knowing you this way, things I couldn't do before, now I know I can. And I'm leaving here a better man. Yes, I'm leaving here a better man.
From the Venable Glass.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
On with the show.
Is back.
Holy smokes.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
You were the first thing that I thought of when I thought I drank you off my mind. When I get lost in the liquor, you're the only one I find. If I did the things I ought to, still would not be mine. So I keep a tight grip on the bottle, getting loose and killing time. This killing time.
Good to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. We have much to discuss today, both in terms of things that are happening right here in the Magnolia State and things that are happening in Washington, D.C. This day in 1789, the first United States Electoral College chose George Washington as president and John Adams as vice president. Pretty significant day in our history, I would say.
Pretty good cast of characters, too.
Yeah. The ideas that those guys had seem to have, for the most part, stood the test of time. 1861, that is the year that the Confederate Constitutional Convention met for the first time and elected Jefferson Davis president of the Confederacy. How about this? In 1908, star number 46 was added to the United States flag for the state of Oklahoma. The addition of Oklahoma to the Union happening in November of 1907 officially, and the 46th star to the flag added in 1908. That threw me just a little bit. I was like, hold on, how old is the University of Oklahoma? I went back and looked. University of Oklahoma started in 1890 when it was still the Oklahoma Territory, before it became a state. On this day in 1938, Adolf Hitler seized control of the German army and began to put Nazis in key posts as his ascent to evil was well on its way. Today in 1962, February 4th, 1962, the world changed for the good. That was the day that the doors opened at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. As the story goes, Danny Thomas, the entertainer, was down on his luck. He was down to just a little bit of money. He wasn't sure how he was going to make it work to take care of his family. And he offered up a prayer to St. Jude. Is it Thaddeus St. Jude, I believe? The patron saint of lost causes. And said, if you will show me the way in my career, I will build you a shrine. That shrine became St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. His career thrived. He raised money within the Lebanese community in Memphis and beyond. And St. Jude never sends a bill out to anyone.
What an amazing institution it is. I mean, when you think of somebody like Danny Thomas thinking that far out, I mean, thinking about what the need was going to be, getting out there, being motivated to raise the money, be the face of something like that, put your name on it, risk something when probably he had plenty. I know his career had, slowed down at that point, but you got to thank people like that. I mean, the heart of gold and the effort, the time, and the foresight to say, hey, this is a need. Somebody's got to get out there and do this.
Yeah.
That's what leadership is. Need more of that.
February 4th, 1970, speaking of leaders, the biographical film Patton, directed by Franklin Schaffner and starring George C. Scott, premiered in New York. It went on to win in 1971 an Academy Award for Best Picture.
I still have the VHS of that, even though I have no way to play it. It's like a trophy.
I bet you've watched it a time or three, haven't you?
Yeah, I love that one.
1988, Panamanian General Manuel Noriega indicted by a United States federal grand jury for drug trafficking and racketeering.
They did not get him for being handsome. We know that.
No, they did not. That's well said. One of the first real bad guys I remember in life, like international bad guys.
Yeah, like he had the envelopes of money just stuck in his pocket everywhere he went. I mean, this guy's above board.
Yeah. Today in 1991, Pete Rose, by a vote of 12-0 of the Baseball Hall of Fame board, banned from baseball due to betting on the game while a player and a manager. 2004, just 22 years ago, Mark Zuckerberg launched Facebook from his Harvard dorm room. And the Winklevoss twins are still sad.
Yeah. Rich, but sad.
But they are also rich. They have been, if not made whole, they have been made wealthy. 2014 was the year that Satya Nadella succeeded Steve Ballmer as CEO of Microsoft. He's just the third CEO in the company's history. Bill Gates was first, then Steve Ballmer, and now Satya Nadella. Made a little over $96.5 million in compensation last year, but that's because the stock shot up like a rocket. There were some that weren't sure what the direction of Microsoft would be after Steve Ballmer, but Nadella has guided the big, massive company into a new era focused on business sales and cloud computing. There was a time when everybody was running Microsoft on everything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, pretty much 90-something% or more of everything was running
Windows.
off of
Apple certainly punched a hole in that, but
Microsoft had a phone originally back. I mean, they were the first to have the smartphone, and I think T-Mobile was the only one that offered it. Then they went the way of mostly not doing that anymore, but it was a heck of a phone. I had it. It was the first smartphone you could get, like a little brick.
And finally, in 2020, Rush Limbaugh, radio personality Rush Limbaugh, presented the Presidential Medal of Freedom by Donald Trump during the State of the Union address.
Hey, I got one for you before we roll over.
Okay.
The next thing. I have there was a birthday today that we jumped over here, but I wanted to read this quote, and y'all tell me whose birthday it is, the person that says this. The global importance of the Middle East is that it keeps the Far East and the Near East from encroaching on each other. Very famous leader. One-termer. Birthday is today. Some people hunt this bird, spelled differently.
Does he have trouble spelling potato?
I think you're nailing it here. That is
the
Mr.
strategic
Dan.
importance of the Middle East is that it keeps the Far East and the Near East from encroaching on each other, said
Yes.
Dan Quayle.
That's Dan Quayle. Yes, sir.
Oh, that's a beaut.
Well, we at least know there is one worse vice president than him in the history of vice presidents, and I would say that would be Kamala Harris.
Mm.
But that's a close running. I mean, Quayle was pretty bad.
Yeah. Dave says, can you circle back to Pete Rose and his betting? He never bet against the team he was playing or coaching for. Is that correct?
That's what they say.
That is what they say. I have not seen the slips, the betting slips. Was not on the phone when he was calling his guy. But the legend has it, and I think the thing that Pete Rose admitted was that, yes, he did bet on baseball, but he never bet against his team.
Now, it brings up a great question. I mean, I don't think you should bet on sports if you're playing it or a coach, but if you're only betting on your team, I mean, is that a bad thing? I mean, I'm just asking. I don't know. In the world of betting,
there's some debate how accurate that actually is.
Oh, yeah.
That idea? I don't know.
I don't believe it. I mean, I believe, personally, he probably got what he deserved there. Although a fan of Pete Rose, I'm not a fan of gambling in that regard, the way it was done, or players doing it. So, But it brings up the question, if you're only gambling on your own team, betting on them.
Announcement yesterday afternoon as we slide into some news headlines from the governor. I've requested a major disaster declaration for multiple counties impacted by the severe winter storms that swept across our state from January 23rd through the 27th of 2026. This is a post on X from Governor Tate Reeves. This includes a request for individual assistance as well as disaster unemployment. Additionally, it includes a request for public assistance to assist local governments, including for debris removal. The state of Mississippi has been working closely with FEMA, state agencies, and local governments on this major disaster declaration request. Together, we've been assessing damage and working to ensure that my request met the required federal thresholds. It's another step forward as we continue to help Mississippians recover. As additional damages are discovered, reported, and validated, my request may be amended to add additional counties for consideration. We'll talk about that when we come back. That is a really big deal for Mississippi. Back after this.
From the seats with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Nothing like little Alan Jackson on a Wednesday morning today, February the 4th, 2026. You've got it locked into Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. So that major disaster declaration request that the governor signed yesterday afternoon, why does that matter? Wasn't there already a state of emergency? And didn't the president already sign off on the declaration of a state of emergency? Yes, he did. That's the initial thing that's got to happen. And it can kind of, well, as you saw in the case of that declaration in Mississippi, that was preemptive. It was before the storm. And it just kind of opens the door for some of the immediate financial needs that are going to exist. This major disaster declaration is a different deal. That is what authorizes reimbursement to communities and states for money that they spend in the wake of the disaster. And without that, a lot of those funds are not reimbursable. So as local communities spend money on debris removal and contract services for repairs and meals and accommodations for workers who have come into the city, whether they are utility workers or first responders or whatever it may be. Many of those expenses will now be reimbursable from FEMA and the federal government to the local areas. And by the way, the important word in all of that is request. Tate Reeves signing a major disaster declaration does not immediately mean that money comes this way, but it makes Mississippi eligible, assuming the President of the United States signs it, which I think in this case he certainly will, though this administration has moved a little slower signing off on major disaster declarations than some have in the past. And the question as to why that is, well, maybe a belief from the federal government that states need to have a little skin in the game as well. And I think, and I don't know if this is across the board for all reimbursable expenses, but I know on at least some of these, this is not a spigot where you turn it on and just free money comes flowing out. This money, let's just use $100 million as an example. 75% of that comes from the feds, of that $100 million. And then the state of Mississippi is on the hook for 12.5%, and then the local community is on the hook for another 12.5%. So if you live in, say, South Haven, and there's $100 million input coming, or $100 million of aid coming to your community, then Washington would take care of $75 million of that. Jackson would put $12.5 million in the pot, and then you'd be responsible for $12.5 million as well, just in that $100 million scenario. So we'll keep an eye on the development of that and how quickly the president signs off on that major disaster declaration that was put forth yesterday by the governor of Mississippi, Tate Reeves. Remember the man that vandalized and set fire to a Mormon church in South Mississippi? Well, that guy's going to jail for a long time, 30 years. Stefan De Rowald was handed the 3-decade sentence yesterday after a jury found him guilty on 6 counts of federal arson and civil rights charges following a trial this past September. Back in July of 2024, he set fire to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Wiggins. Told law enforcement he broke into the church and wrote disparaging messages on the walls before setting the facility ablaze. He used paintings, hymnals, and other paper-related objects to try and stoke the flames. After he wasn't able to burn it down on his first attempt, he went back and tried to finish what he started, motivated by, according to court records, a disagreement with the Mormon Church's platform. Wiggins' house of worship was unable to hold services in the building for several months following the fires. The church was handed $176,000 in restitution at Rowald's sentencing. I guess 30 was as much as they could throw at him. A week and a half after parts of Mississippi were devastated by Winter Storm Fern, the state Senate is stepping in to try and make things a little bit easier and provide monetary relief. Yesterday, 52-0. That was the unanimous vote in the Senate. Senate Bill 2924, allocating $20 million to MEMA for the purposes of defraying expenses related to the state obligations for disaster response and recovery, including the severe weather event beginning January 24th. Delbert Hoseman issued a statement afterward commending his chamber for quickly approving funds that were needed in areas of North Mississippi and the Delta. Fern has killed at least 25 people. The recovery process is expected to be lengthy. Response efforts remain underway with still nearly 40,000 Mississippians, residents and businesses without power. That bill will now go to the House, where hopefully they will quickly sign off on it as well. A Lee County school resource officer was killed directing traffic on Monday of this week. Sheriff Jim Johnson reports that the incident occurred in front of Shannon Elementary School. It involved two accidents. The victim, identified as 52-year-old Rick Haggard, said to have been hit during the wreck. Crash is still under investigation by both the Mississippi Highway Patrol and the Shannon Police Department. Haggard's tragic passing, not the first of its kind to be reported at Shannon Elementary School. Back in 2022, Officer Johnny Patterson was hit by a vehicle and was killed. Springtime is festival time, and the Double Decker Arts Festival in Oxford will be back in 2025. Double Decker is a festival that has been heavily awarded. They got the 2025 Shining Example Award for Large Festival by the Southeast Tourism Society. The Outstanding Event Award by the Mississippi Pinnacle Awards. The 2023 largest best festival, our best large festival in Mississippi. That was through Mississippi Tourism. More than 100,000 are expected to attend, and the music lineup is out. Lance, you like live music, don't you?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Here you go. Friday night, it gets started with Penelope Road, followed by Warren Treaty, and then Shane Smith and the Saints. On Saturday, the music begins at 11:30 in the morning and will go until about 10 o'clock on Saturday night. Annie and the Caldwells started off, followed by the Anameros, Mountain Grass Unit, the Heavy, the Dip, Margot Price, and rounding it out, Wilco. I readily admit, I am not music guy, especially like, do I know all the small bands and whatever? But I talked to musical guy, a bunch of them, yesterday after this was announced, and music guy is real fired up about this lineup.
Yeah, I'll say, I don't remember a double-decker in a long time that didn't have names of bands and people. I had no idea who they were. But then you go listen to them, and you're like, oh, my goodness. Mm-hmm. I didn't know about these folks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you'll have a blast. It doesn't matter. The music lineup is going to be amazing. It always is.
Yeah. The crew that puts the music to lineup together works really, really hard to get some acts that are going to grab a lot of people across a lot of different interests. And I think they did that with this one. Sports headlines are on the way. We've also got an update from the Mississippi Lottery. 7 o'clock hour, Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd will stop by. We've got a lot to discuss with her, including the news out of the Senate Education Committee yesterday. House Bill 2 failed after about 2 minutes of conversation. This was not a long debate that happened in the Senate Education Committee. They shut it down quickly. Much to the chagrin of the Speaker of the House. And he let his feelings be known on X last night. We will discuss that to begin the 7 o'clock hour. But first, we've got to wrap up the 6 o'clock hour. We're back with you after this.
From the Venable Glass Truck.
With Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mississippi Lottery Update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, online at mslottery.com. You can go there and keep up with all the things that are happening, all the new games, all of the promotions, and all the winning numbers. And, of course, you can buy your ticket at your local Mississippi Lottery retailer. No jackpot winner in Mega Millions last night, but one ticket purchased at Zip Trip Tunica matched 4 out of the 5 white balls and the mega ball to win $10,000. The ticket's automatic multiplier doubled the prize to $20,000. So that's outstanding for them. Congratulations. The estimated jackpot for Friday's Mega Millions drawing up to $346 million. The cash value of that, $156,100,000. Powerball still relatively small, at least compared to Mega Millions. The next drawing for it is coming tonight, an $80 million jackpot. Download the Mississippi Lottery app to track winning numbers, check your tickets, see the latest bonus promotions, and enter non-winning scratch-off games into the second chance promotional drawings. That is all with the Mississippi Lottery app. Outstanding. Did you see this story floating around yesterday? We know that New Orleans, a city that is near and dear to the hearts of many, many, many Mississippians, but is frustratingly dangerous sometimes, has a crime issue. There are parts of New Orleans where it feels safe, and there are parts of New Orleans where you just don't want to go. Perhaps one of the reasons that New Orleans has had a bit of an issue with crime is they don't know who they are hiring in their police department. Yesterday, ICE confirmed to Fox News that they have arrested a New Orleans Police Department recruit who ICE says is an illegal alien from Cameroon with an active deportation order and no work authorization. And, oh, by the way, he was illegally issued a gun by the New Orleans Police Department. 46-year-old Larry Tama was 1 week away from graduating the New Orleans Police Department Academy when he was arrested by ICE. They say that Tama first entered the U.S. legally in 2015 on a visitor's visa, was granted conditional residency after marrying an American citizen in 2016. However, in 2022, his application for permanent residency was denied. Why? Because he didn't live in Minnesota. Fraud. Fraud is the reason that his application was denied, which we know if he had been in Minnesota, they would have looked the other way, wouldn't have been an issue. ICE says Timo was ordered to appear in immigration court 3 times. Never did. Disregarding laws in the United States, which resulted in an immigration judge ordering him to vamoose.
I think we froze up for a second, folks. We'll have Richard back in just a minute, I am sure. But yes, the embattled New Orleans police chief, Kirkpatrick, the lady that it seems that had a rough go the first time during the New Orleans truck attack. And now we're dealing with an issue such as this with hiring an illegal, giving him a firearm, and that's a little crazy there because, as Richard said, so many Mississippians, so many folks from around, they vacation in New Orleans, and areas do feel safe, some do not. And when you're hiring criminals to enforce law, giving them a gun and a badge, that's pretty bold right there, Cotton. But what's surprising with any of this, right? So, but as we move forward through the day, there'll be more news stories that Richard will get to here in a second. We'll get his power back on. He had a blink. We're dealing with some of those types of things still. So hopefully during the break here, we'll have him lined back up and ready to go. But as far as our guests go, we will have Nicole Akins-Boyd coming on here at 7:20. And then we'll also have Steve Tybor, President and CEO of 8 Days of Hope. A great story there. We've had Steve on before. And he'll talk a little bit about the response to the winter storms in North Mississippi and how people can support their efforts to help Mississippians get back to some semblance of normality. You are listening to Richard Cross here on Mornings with Richard Cross. I'm Lance, sitting in for just a second until we get Richard's power back on. He'll have Fox News and all the good stuff here to keep you informed. And on the backside of this, we'll have Richard ready to go, and we'll start this baby back up. Back in just a minute. Stay tuned.
You ain't got no drink. I don't need to change my strings, 'cause the dirt don't hurt the way I sing.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Let's go. Waking up the Magnolia State. Mornings with Richard Cross. That's what it's here for. Super Talk, Mississippi.
I ain't never been with a woman long enough for my boots to get old. We've been together.
When I said vamoose a minute ago, I didn't know that I was going to be the one that was leaving. I mean...
Like, what? What did you just say?
And a judge said, vamoose, and I'm gone. Yeah. This is it's the aftermath of getting your power turned back on. Sometimes it blinks. Sometimes there are repairs that are going. Hopefully, they will hold off on those for about another hour and 54 minutes. That would be most appreciated. Glad to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. That's me, but this doesn't happen without Lance. He is sitting at the control desk where it appears as if you should be able to launch a space shuttle, making it all happen, including a Country Music Wednesday. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. Yep, lot going on at Community Bank. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams, whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business. We're here every step of the way. Dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Member FDIC. Yesterday, the Senate Education Committee convened, and they took up House Bill 2, briefly, for about 120 seconds. And then they voted. And House Bill 2 died. The 7 o'clock hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you every day by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough. If you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go on their website to mwgemployerservices.com. C-Spire text line open to you at 601-879-4395. Would love your reaction to the news that House Bill 2 died in the Senate Education Committee. I believe about 2 minutes worth of debate over the issue, and then they killed it. So, where do we go from here? That is a good question, because we know that there were things in House Bill 2 that not only did senators like, but they've got bills that they have passed and sent over to the House for consideration as well. Many of the items that were lumped into that omnibus bill are individual items that are available to vote on for the House. Will the House be so frustrated with the Senate for killing House Bill 2 that they refuse to act on those bills, or will perhaps some common sense prevail and we get some of the good passed. Speaker of the House, Jason White, went to X yesterday evening, and he wrote this. It's a long post, but I think I want to read it to you in its entirety in case you have not seen it. Jason White writes, "Today the Senate chose to be premature of legislative deadlines and performative in their 2-minute Education Committee meeting to kill House Bill 2. The self-proclaimed deliberative body did not deliberate. Instead of engaging in meaningful work to build on Mississippi's education gains, the Senate has chosen the route to shut down any productive pathway to put students before systems. To avoid conversation, debate, or thorough evaluation is a disservice to parents, students, and future generations of Mississippians. Senate leadership has aligned themselves with the ACLU, Southern Poverty Law Center, the Mississippi Democratic Party, and the status quo. I'm incredibly proud of my House members who were brave and courageous in their vote for House Bill 2, unlike the impulsive and rash action shown today by the Senate. Given the way major legislation has been championed by the House over the previous 2 years, we have seen this move from the deliberative body, in quotes, and know the playbook. We are not deterred. This issue will not go away. The Senate has anchored their support to the status quo. We are comfortable where we stand in our support from White House, Governor Tate Reeves, most of our statewide elected officials, faith-based organizations, business leaders, the Mississippi Federation of Republican Women, and the majority of Mississippians. The House has proven we will stand up for what is best for Mississippi, and especially our state's greatest asset, our children." That was the post from the Speaker of the House, Jason White, at 6:50 last night. I didn't like that. I don't like that. And here's why. I think you know by now, if you've been listening to MRC for a while, that we have tried to have meaningful discussion after meaningful discussion about school choice, educational freedom, and a lot of other issues tied to education, K through 12, in Mississippi. We have invited guests with opinions on both sides of this issue over and over and over, and it's been a year, over a year now, that we've been discussing in great detail school choice. When we first started talking about this, it became abundantly clear to me that this was an issue for you that elicited a great deal of passion on both sides of the argument. If you were anti, especially universal school choice, but in a lot of cases, any school choice, you were passionate about that position. Primarily, I think, because you believed it would hurt our public schools in Mississippi. If you were pro-school choice, especially universal school choice, you were passionate about your position in that. I don't think I have fallen into either of those two categories where I am overly passionate about one side or the other. What I have said consistently and what I will continue to say is there are elements of the school choice conversation that I see as very, very good for Mississippi. But there are elements of the school choice conversation that I don't think are as good for Mississippi. But what we've tried to do is have a civil, engaging conversation so that you and we, all of us as Mississippians, can understand what's at stake, can understand what the issues are, can understand what the potential pitfalls are. Here's what I don't like on that post from Jason White. I don't like, because I guess I am not fully 100% without question aligned with everything in House Bill 2, and universal school choice being absolutely what we have to have in Mississippi, I don't like being characterized as aligned with the ACLU, the Southern Poverty Center, and the Mississippi Democratic Party and the status quo. I don't like it, and I don't appreciate it. And I realize that the words that Jason White used in this said Senate leadership has aligned themselves with. But if you're saying Senate leadership has aligned themselves with this because they killed the bill, because they didn't like everything in the bill, and that's the reason they killed it, then you're saying anybody that feels that way has aligned themselves with the ACLU, the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC if you prefer, and the Mississippi Democratic Party. And I haven't, and I don't, and I won't align with those entities. Very, very rarely. This statement strikes me as political grandstanding. And I was thinking back over the last year, and I remembered the budget conversation a year ago. The Speaker and others in the House were adamant at the beginning of the 2025 legislative session that they would not wait until the end of the cycle and have a bunch of closed-door meetings in which they established a budget. They weren't going to do it. And you know what? They didn't. They stuck to their guns. That was their position. They told the Senate that was their position. And when the Senate waited until the 11th hour to try and get the budget done, the House of Representatives went home. And frankly, I kind of applauded the fact that they said, this is our position, this is what we're going to do, and they stuck to it. And Jason White pointed that out on numerous occasions. But now the shoe's on the other foot. The Senate was very clear. They said from the beginning, we're not passing universal school choice. We don't have the votes. Not going to happen. That's not what we believe in. But when they stuck to that position, House Bill 2 came along. It included universal school choice. Public to private was in there. Money following the student. The Senate did what they said they were going to do, but now, because of a disagreement, it's in alignment with the ACLU, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and the Mississippi Democratic Party. I don't like that at all. Senator Nicole Boyd joins us next.
From the Venable Glass Trap.
What's going on?
Mornings with Richard Cross.
It is what it is. Yes, it is.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
For a while, maybe longer if I do.
Good to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm, SuperTalk TV. Glad to be with you. A lot of messages from you on the C Spire text line. Some about what I said a second ago, and that's fine. And I want to get to those, and we will do that today. We're going to have plenty of time in the 8 o'clock hour to get to a bunch of your messages. Right now, though, our first guest of the morning, Senator Nicole Boyd, joins us. She represents Mississippi District 9. That's Lafayette County and Panola County. She's chair of the Senate Universities and Colleges Committee and vice chair of the Senate Medicaid Committee. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well. Appreciate your time. Let's start briefly with your home district, District 9, that has been heavily affected by the winter storm of the last few weeks. There are a lot of people that are still hurting, that are still suffering, that still don't have power. More and more are getting power, which is great news. This is a long recovery effort. I know you've spent some time over the weekend back with some folks in Panola County, with some folks in Lafayette County as well. Just maybe a big picture thought from you.
The storm has been absolutely devastating to our area. The cities are recovering a little bit quicker. Main thoroughfares are there. Power is out, and power is back restored in most of those places. But our counties, areas are still without power. Hopefully this rain is going to wash away some of that ice in those areas and will make travel better. But the roads were still impassable in many parts of the county this weekend. Crews, though, are getting there and they're getting it up and going. But it is going to recovery is going to take some time. When talking with the National Guard guy the other day and then talking later with some individuals who had worked Hurricane Katrina, they compared it to that as far as the tree damage that has gone on. And you had some different other things that didn't happen there, but working through the ice that they've had to go through, working through those bitter cold temperatures this weekend, and still working and doing that, they have made enormous progress. But it is going to take quite some time to get that together. When you see just all of the limbs and the trees and all of that's down, and then our individuals now, as the heat comes back in, their pipes are busting and roofs are down. And, I was talking to the superintendent in one of the counties, that has most of the county yesterday. He's not sure of, when they can go back based on they're looking at power outages and how much is out before they can go back. So, it has been tremendous. It looks absolutely horrific. My senators from the surrounding areas, particularly that have more rural parts, they are reporting just a lot of devastation, a lot of people that are still without power. And people need gas, people need propane, all those things to try to keep those things running while you don't have heat and you don't have gas at some of those places. So even getting your gas tanks filled has been a tremendous problem. So fuel is very much an issue right now throughout the area. So I will say this, though. We could not have made the progress we've made without the tremendous help of Mississippians across the state, and the organizations across the South that have flooded in with all the different volunteer organizations. The National Guard has been absolutely essential in helping get stuff out to particularly our rural areas and clearing off the roads and things like that. So, even though this is absolutely devastating, we are so grateful for the people of Mississippi, and it really does make you realize we are one Mississippi that people are coming in with and trying to help. So all that support out there, please keep sending it because it's going to be needed for a long time here.
Yeah, there's this like opposing dynamic of the tragedy of the storm, but the good that is coming from it, and that we're seeing with neighbors and with neighboring states and outside entities who are coming and saying, how can we help? That's been the maybe kind of the most common refrain that I've heard, whether it's from individuals or groups. How can we help? We want to help.
Yeah. And and this is a prayerful state, and I will ask everyone to keep, especially our leaders, our mayors. Our mayors have been absolutely incredible, but they are, and our emergency person, my mayor, Robert Tannehill, in my local town has been absolutely amazing. Our emergency management directors that I have in Lafayette and Panola County, but they are all going without a lot of sleep right now. And, they probably hadn't gotten more than 4 hours, consistent, since the storm has hit. And even before that, as they were preparing, they have been absolutely incredible. And right now I see my supervisors, trying to get power and electricity, get fuel out to people when we know that it's going to be a while before electricity comes back in place. So I went to the shelters this weekend, and you forget sometimes positions that people are in and how much help that they really do need. And so they've been absolutely incredible on what the jobs they're doing. So. Yeah.
This is a conversation that's going to go on for a long time.
Absolutely.
But the legislature also is in the middle of a session, about a month in right now, with 2 months remaining, and there are many things to discuss there. I think top of mind right now is what the Senate did yesterday in the Education Committee in killing House Bill 2, and all the reports that I've read are that it happened fairly quickly and without a lot of debate. A question that we got on the C Spire text line, as I was saying a second ago, I didn't particularly like the speaker's position on this and kind of the characterization of he was talking about Senate leadership, but I thought it extended beyond that, being aligned with the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Democratic Party. I do have this question, though. Why so quickly did the Education Committee kill this as opposed to maybe engaging in debate and seeing if there was middle ground to find as opposed to just killing the piece altogether?
Well, this is not something that is new. We knew what was coming, and we had made our position clear. We've been looking at this all fall. We have had hearings. We have looked in-depthly at where we are in education. We have looked at the steps that we need to take to move forward. And we've had that bill on our desk. It was about that thick for those of you that are watching, which is about 2 inches thick. That we've had forever to review and go over. And so there needed to be no more said because we have had that. We've been talking about it extensively. At the end of the day, I love all the name calling. It's great. It really doesn't help anything, but the Senate's kind of used to that. The House engaged in that same name calling when we wouldn't pass Obamacare 2 years ago. The House kept calling us, those bad names. So it's fine. We'll get over the name calling. But the reason that most senators voted against that bill is it's not conservative. It's not accountable, and it's not honest about the long-term cost to taxpayers in Mississippi. And what it did is the bill, basically, y'all have an ad that is on SuperTalk that runs all the time. It's called Retirement Hoping. It's what they talk about. It runs repeatedly throughout the day. And it talks about that if you really don't know your plan and you don't know your outcomes, then all you're doing is retirement hoping. And quite frankly, that bill was education hoping. It was not built with the vouchers. They haven't shown the results in other states. They have been enormously expensive. And so basically what it was doing is it was putting more money put more money into a system that showed no reforms in doing it that way. And so it was good intentions, but good intentions don't balance budgets. And that's what we were looking at. When this program would have cost upwards of $300 to $400 million, but yet it had shown no real results in other states, that's a problem. And that's not conservative spending. And the other thing too, it lessened accountability standards. And we should never decouple money with results. And for senators, their conservatism means outcome first and just not writing blank checks and hoping for the best. And that's really the reason that the Senate didn't choose to take it up. The other thing, too, is the Senate had already voted on some aspect of school choice. They had voted on the portability bill. We had also voted on special purpose schools, really getting the education department to really develop a plan for us on that. We had also, that was in that bill, it was financial literacy, 8th grade reading benchmarks, math acts. We had voted on all the different aspects and sent those separate bills down to the House, all in individual bills so they can be evaluated. And this bill was one big omnibudsman bill. And so we had talked about it, among us, and we had studied it the whole year. So this wasn't a hasty decision. It was something that had been studied completely. So, it's a little disingenuous to say that all of that. So, and the Speaker knows that. This is a lot of name calling here.
So on the other side of the break, we will pick up the question of what happens now. Some of these individual bills that the Senate has passed and sent to the House, will they be taken up, or is this all going to die? Senator Nicole Boyd is my guest. We'll be back with you after this. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Seabrook.
Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Wake up.
Yes, do it.
Wake up.
Come on.
All right.
Super Talk Mississippi.
Wake up.
We're going to have to go to the hotline. It froze up again, Nicole, so Richard is on the phone, and he will interview you from here forth that way.
Okay.
All right, we'll keep rolling like this. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming online at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Senator Nicole Boyd is my guest. We were talking before the break about House Bill 2 and about the Senate Education Committee killing that. And to me, the question going forward, Senator, is those bills that you talked about that the Senate had already voted on, do you anticipate that the House is going to be willing to take those up, to amend them, to engage in debate, or is this the end of the school choice educational reform conversation for this session?
Well, I think the Senate kind of has made its position clear on basically the voucher portion of that. There still are, as I've said, there's still some school choice issues alive in regards to portability, in regards to looking at special purpose schools. But look, there's a lot of education bills that are still alive that are coming from both the House and the Senate. We're looking at financial literacy for high schoolers, and even some stuff in middle school, which we think is incredibly important. We know we need to see improvements on our 8th grade reading benchmarks, and we've got literacy acts in both chambers. One of the acts that I'm sponsoring that I think there's also that the House has looked at, and they looked at in HB2, is looking at our math scores and really what we need to do to see improvements in our math. We also have a civics course that we want to see. We have a bill from the Senate that would look at being efficient with school closures and having a commission look at that. We've also got a bill that will really look at school boards. We're having some issues with some of the school board management across the state, and that would give the Department of Education some ability to really go in and work with those school boards. We've got an ombudsman bill that would put basically somebody that can help parents at the Department of Education. So, I mean, we've got a tremendous education agenda. The House passed just yesterday a bill to raise teacher salaries. That was an individual bill that they had. And then they also put a special supplement in for special education teachers, which is something that I'm very passionate about. So I think we've got so much work to be done on this. This was one aspect that the Senate had said from the get-go, this is not what we're interested in. We don't think it's conservative. This is not where we want to go. But there's a lot of work still to be done and a lot of bills. So hopefully we will continue to plow forward and work together in really looking at all of these pieces of legislation. So this was just one aspect that we said, no, thank you.
But do you think the House is willing to engage on those individual bills now that the big bill was shut down?
Well, I certainly hope so because I had a tremendous amount of phone calls about school choice. I had one of all those phone calls. I had one individual that did not want that wanted school vouchers and I had tremendous amount of people saying no. I can't imagine that they haven't had, as a result of their votes, many of them have had those same phone calls as well. My district has been very vocal in their opinions about this. So look, we all are charged to do the work of our constituents and do the work for the taxpayers, and we have done so many good things in education, and but we still have so much to go. And so there's a reason that we have risen in the ranks, that we have come from the bottom to the top, but we've still got so much work to do. And so I hope that we will be able to do this. I feel confident that the House, that we can move along and keep working in this arena.
Senator Nicole Boyd is my guest. We certainly could continue down this road for hours. It feels like we have done that over and over and over, but there certainly is other stuff that's on your plate. As chair of Senate colleges and universities, I feel like the early part of this session, some of those things have flown under the radar. But we've talked at least around the idea that some pretty significant IHL reform could be on the way. I know you and I have talked about performance-based funding for colleges and universities, but I understand that also puts some of our colleges and universities in a difficult spot. Is this debate about to take center stage?
This debate is going to be ongoing throughout the session, looking at that. We've got some really high performers, as I've said, that are doing tremendous work, and they're getting results, and they're getting our students through college and on to jobs. We also, though, have some low performers. And we have looked at performance-based budgeting. We've had hearings on it. We've talked about it. Right now, the College Board has engaged a firm where they are going to be making a proposal on some performance-based funding formula. And so we have legislation now, but we are working with them, and we're going to continue to work with them throughout the process. Hopefully by the end of session, we will have a good performance-based funding model that really we can work towards, and maybe get that in statute is what we'd like to do. So I feel confident about that. We also, though, have one piece of legislation too that we've passed that will look at governance of universities and colleges, and it's a governance committee that we've passed through our Universities and Colleges Committee. We'll debate that in the Senate, but we need to have a really hard look at our universities and colleges and how we govern them and what's the best process to do that. And we really haven't done that and really acted upon that here in Mississippi. A lot of states have done that. They've changed their models. Some of them have, of how they do that. They're done differently all across the country. But I'm not sure how we do that is the most effective way to do that. And so I think we are very excited to kind of look at that and see, because we need higher performers across the system, much higher performers across the system.
So as I understand it, the IHL is a constitutionally appointed board.
Right.
It's obvious the members are appointed by the board, but the IHL exists constitutionally. Is it time to take a look at whether or not the IHL needs to continue to exist in its current form? There's been a lot of talk through the years, not just in this session, about individual schools needing their own governing boards, and that may be kind of what you were alluding to. I mean, maybe people look at that from an Ole Miss perspective or a Mississippi State perspective or a Southern Miss perspective, but I would argue that maybe the school that needs that more than any is Jackson State, because it feels like as the IHL has chosen leaders for Jackson State over and over, those decisions have failed.
Yes, no question about that. But that's what this governance bill does. It will be that's what we will be looking at over the next year, is really looking to see, does the system still work for us? Is it a broken system completely, or is it something that we need to make some significant reforms in and keep the present system, or is it something we need to go to the voters with and make a suggestion on looking at something different? And that is something that's been talked about through the years. It's not something we've really studied and looked at, and so that's what this governance bill would do. It would really study and look at that and see if we need to make those changes really for the whole system. But I do agree with you. It may behoove some of our smaller universities, even some of our regional universities, it might behoove them to have their own governance board. And so that's definitely what we'll be looking at through if that legislation continues forward. So when I hear you say we'll study that over the next year, this doesn't sound like something that will have resolution during this session. Is that right? No. The piece of legislation that we have will look at this throughout the next year, and we'll bring in experts. We'll kind of look at all the different systems around the country. We've kind of started dabbling in this already. We had hearings last fall and in December, and brought some people in from Tennessee. They have a completely kind of different governance structure there. But as we were listening to it, a number of my members of our committee wanted us to really look at that. So that's what we'll be doing, and we've got some other great pieces of legislation too that we've got in.
Senator Nicole Boyd joining us in studio this morning. As always, I appreciate your time. I know there's more to get to. We'll hopefully do that next time we're able to visit.
Sounds great.
Thanks so much for your time. Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd. She represents District 9. That's Lafayette and part of Panola counties in North Mississippi. We'll get to your messages on the C Spire text line coming up next, 601-879-4395. You want to weigh in on what the Senate did with House Bill 2 yesterday? Your thoughts on that? Let's do it. We're back with you right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
In the car, at home, or at work, it's always free to listen to Super Talk Mississippi and Mornings with Richard Cross.
My transistor radio comes from far away, and when it's night over here, over there, it's breaking day. Good times I had walking in the sand with the beautiful girl that I met made in Japan.
Good to be with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Thanks for bearing with us back in my normal home studio. And we've had a couple of power blinks this morning, but have been able to rejoin you, and hopefully we haven't made Lance too nervous.
No, I'm not like a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. I'm ready.
There you go. There you go. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. For those of you suggesting battery backup options for me, yeah, we probably need to look into those. So we will we'll work on that. Let's get some of your messages. A lot of them coming in. You've got it locked in on Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Public schools are bastions of mediocrity, owned lock, stock, and barrel by the Democrat death cult and the losers in the teachers union. How do you really feel?
Woo!
Richard, you've done a good job trying to hear both sides on this story. Maybe you should run for office. That is kind of you to say, Jim, in Ripley. But I have, my wife and I have said that, my wife particularly has said that she doesn't want to be married to a politician. So hopefully we can just talk about it. Somebody says Jason White threw a hissy fit.
This is a sports debate. This is like sports. I mean, it's either you are for or against it. There's no middle ground, it seems.
Yeah. Nuance is not a word that people like a lot. Seems like a lot of the time. Many of us simply do not support this bill for school choice. School choice is something I can get behind, but I cannot get behind this bill, talking about House Bill 2. Many of us begged our senators to turn this down. This is not a good option. In many opinions, all of the rhetoric that is being cast at us has potential to divide the Republican Party while we have a Democrat waiting in the background to take over the governor's mansion. This is not too smart. I mean, I'm assuming that is a reference to Brandon Presley, who was closer in the last gubernatorial election than a Democrat has been in a long time. We have had exclusively Republican leadership in the governor's mansion since Ronnie Musgrove, starting with Haley Barbour and then moving into Phil Bryant for 8 years, and then Tate Reeves now in his second term in the governor's mansion. Look, if you want me to be the guy that casts stones and be like, oh, our Republican majority and Republican leadership in the governor's mansion and the lieutenant governor's post and everything else hasn't gotten anything done, you're talking to the wrong guy, because I think they've gotten a ton done. Mississippi is a better place today than it was 20 years ago. It's a better place than it was today 24 years ago. Mississippi is in an incredibly strong place financially right now. I was having a conversation with a legislator a couple of days ago with regard to the expense related to this storm and all of the efforts that are going to have to be employed. We saw the Senate approve $20 million as a starting point for immediate needs, and that's going to go to the House as well. It was unanimous in the Senate, Republicans and Democrats voting 52-0. And we've got $1.6 billion in the bank. Mississippi is in a fantastic place financially. Mississippi has seen massive gains in K through 12 education, especially K through 6 education over the last 10 years. And a lot of people have worked really, really hard. Now, the question is, and this is one of the ways that Speaker White and proponents of school choice, universal or otherwise, have framed it, is we can't just be happy with the progress we've had. We've got to keep moving forward. And I agree with that. I don't know if this is the way to do it, but I appreciate that leaders in both the House and the Senate are openly saying we can't sit on our laurels with the success of the last few years. We've got to continue to push forward. And some of these bills, with regard to reading and math in particular, that the Senate has put forward are trying to replicate some of what has worked K through 6, K through 4, K through 2, however you want to break it down in terms of the reading strides and the overall education strides that have been made. The Senate bills also cover pay raises for teachers, assistant teachers, community college, and university professors. House Bill 2 actually stopped short of that. It didn't go as far in terms of raises across the board for educators. It did have the teacher assistant piece in there to try and raise those salaries. I guess maybe the frustrating thing for me in all of this is there is a lot, not a little, but a lot of common ground between what the House wanted and presented in House Bill 2 and what the Senate wants and is presented in individual bills. I just don't want political posturing to get in the way of getting that done because, well, we didn't do it my way or we didn't do it my way. We're back after this.
Stay social during the show at SuperTalk Mississippi on Facebook. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi and the SuperTalk app.
Trap overhead, sound of town. No local yokel gonna shut me down. It's me and my boys got this rig unwound, and we'll come 1,000 miles from a guitar case.
Glad to be back with you as we roll into the 8 o'clock hour. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. The show is presented every morning by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Steve Tybor is president and CEO with the organization 8 Days of Hope. We've talked a lot over the last couple of weeks about the number of organizations from outside the state of Mississippi who have come in, who have extended a helping hand, who have done some of the heavy lifting and the backbreaking work of clearing debris, who are feeding people in North Mississippi who are without power. And 8 Days of Hope is certainly one of the organizations that falls into that category. Steve, I appreciate you joining us again. I feel like it's always bad news when we talk, or at least bad news for Mississippi, but from the bad, we have seen so much good.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on. We're actually based in Mississippi, so you're right. A lot of organizations from around the country have been here. We have been feeding people literally since day number one when the power went out. I think yesterday we were in 6 different communities feeding people. We were feeding people in Water Valley where kids in the neighborhood were walking to the local elementary school to get a hot lunch. So I think by the end of the day tomorrow or the next day we'll be over 20,000 meals. And we're thankful for the volunteers. We have volunteers from all over the country who have come to Mississippi. Right now, I think we're about 600 volunteers who have already served or are serving today. They've come from New York, Alaska. They've come from Texas, Iowa, and everywhere in between. We have heavy equipment and volunteers in Oxford, Mississippi, and also in New Albany, Mississippi. So we're going to be here as long as it takes. In fact, we've announced that we will be in Oxford to February 14th. But I think by the end of the day or tomorrow morning, we'll be extending that because of the damage. I'm from Buffalo originally. Right. This is surreal for a state in the South to see this much damage. Both Mississippi and Tennessee were hit so hard.
And Steve, you mentioned being from Buffalo. I mean, I think people, especially people that follow the NFL or watch the Weather Channel, know what lake effect snow is, right? We've heard all about lake effect snow and the massive amounts of snow that Buffalo and parts of western New York get, but ice is such a different animal than snow, and that's what we've been dealing with. The snow's beautiful, and sometimes it's intrusive, and sometimes it causes problems, but you can move it. It really is hard to move ice, and it's hard to deal with what it does to trees and power lines.
Especially, when you live in Western New York, you have the equipment. I was speaking to someone in the mayor's office a couple of weeks ago. They had 16 inches of snow in one day. The next day, all the roads were wet, but they were cleared. They have 300 pieces of equipment. They have, I think, 48 trucks that just salt the roads. Mississippi is not prepared for this, nor it's hard to plan for a storm that happens every 40 years, right? To have the equipment just sitting there for 39 years and then pull it out of the warehouse, that's for the local elected leaders to decide if they want to do something moving forward. I do know this. 8 Days of Hope, we're faith-based. We want to love and serve the brokenhearted. Today, thousands of meals will be delivered to multiple communities. Hundreds of volunteers will take heavy equipment, chainsaws. They'll be taking trees off people's homes, unblocking their driveways, taking a tree off someone's car. They'll be delivering hot meals to local churches in these communities, and they're just going to try to bring a glimmer of hope to people who still are without power and maybe are feeling hopeless.
It's an incredible mission, Steve. I was driving around a couple of days ago, and I saw all the 8 Days of Hope flags that were planted outside North Oxford Baptist Church. I think maybe that has been the headquarters for you and for your team as you have departed. The hunger piece of it is the part that grabs me. You talked about in, I guess, about 10, 11 days now, over 20,000 meals served. How does that work? Is part of your arsenal, you've got food trucks and your people are cooking? Is it local organizations that are donating meals and you're working in conjunction with them? What's that process?
So 8 Days of Hope has 4 arms of the ministry. We respond right away, our rapid response arm. That is in New Albany and Oxford as we speak. We have a rebuilding arm that can come 9-12 months later, like we did in Amory, Mississippi, a year and a half ago following the tornado. We also have a mass feeding arm. And so the good news for us is our national headquarters, 60,000 square feet building with $6 million of equipment all paid for, is in outside Tupelo, Mississippi in Pontotoc. So our mass feeding teams start making meals. In fact, while you and I are recording today, this morning, they're making thousands of meals for tomorrow. And then tomorrow they'll do the same thing. So we're making the food in Tupelo, and then very quickly we're moving those meals to churches and schools, VFW centers, community centers, from Ripley to Batesville to Oxford to New Albany, Pontotoc, everywhere in between, delivering food. And we want the local churches and organizations to be the heroes. We buy the food, we make the food. It's filled with protein. It tastes great. Whenever I'm around the food, they tell me I can't lick my fingers, but I always get a plate and stick off to the side. But it's been amazing for us to be able to love and serve people right here in the state that we call home. Last year we were in LA with the fires. We were in Hurricane Helene in Florida, North Carolina, Georgia. We were at a snowstorm in Buffalo when they got 6 feet of snow last year in January. So to serve in your backyard, you hope that you're never needed, but when you're needed, we're going to be there. And we're going to be there probably a lot longer than people think. I think the need is real. I'm in Nashville today looking at the damage here in Tennessee, but we're not going to leave Mississippi to go to another place until we're done in Mississippi. So if you want to volunteer, it's free, and we provide food and lodging. Any skill set is available. If you could drag tree limbs that have been cut down by people that are certified chainsaw operators to the front of the property, we need you. Can you make a sandwich? Can you drive a truck? Go to the website, 8daysofhope.com. It's free, and we provide food and lodging. So if you're watching this in Jackson, and maybe you grew up in Oxford or went to Ole Miss and you want to give back, maybe you're down on the coast saying, you know what, people came here to help us with all the hurricanes. Now we want to pay it forward. Yeah. Come join us. Go to 8dayshope.com. You volunteer right online. It is an active disaster, so there is an age requirement, but any skill set is needed. And we would love volunteers. Volunteers today are from 23 states in Mississippi, serving with 8 Days of Hope. And so people from around the country are here. If you're able to give us a day, 3 days, 5 days, or a couple of weeks, come serve with us.
Steve Tybor is president and CEO of 8 Days of Hope. You've been around so many of these situations. You know that the aftermath of a storm is chaotic. And there are lots of levels of chaos, right? It's the power outages and the things that people need. But you also have all of these different entities, some of which are governmental and some of which are volunteer, like 8 Days of Hope. So you've got the National Guard in, you've got power line workers that are coming from all over the Southeast to help restore power and try to get people up. But you've also got multiple volunteer organizations like 8 Days of Hope. Is there any coordination between organizations say, hey, we're all chasing the same thing here. We want to do the most good and create the most impact? How do we work independently but not step on each other's toes so we're not duplicating services?
Absolutely. There is a network of senior leaders from Samaritan's Purse, Mercy Chefs, Convoy of Hope, 8 Days of Hope, and we talk. I know that my friends over at Mercy Chefs, they do a great job with food. We've started our feeding arm just 3 years ago. We actually talked, where are you going to set up your kitchen? Where are we going to set up our kitchen? So, they're over in this area and we're, 30 miles away. No one's going to drive 30 miles for hot meals. So there is coordination. We're a little bit unique. We bring heavy equipment in. Most organizations don't because of the insurance challenges and the possibilities of accidents. But we have certified heavy equipment operators that today are operating bobcats and bucket trucks. So as we speak, trees are being taken off people's roofs where there's still water coming through when it rains, like it did yesterday. So we can take the tree off the roof, tarp the roof, and let the insurance company and that family, start connecting to figure out what does the rebuilding process look like. This is a marathon. There's no quick fix here. This is an epic storm that we talked about for decades to come. Very similar to the storm in the early 90s, but also different. The wide range of communities, Richard, that have been hit by the storm is mind-boggling. A tornado will come through an area, maybe bounce up and then jump a neighborhood, but it's got a line. This is widespread, covering many communities, and that's one of the reasons why we normally feed at 1 or 2 places. We're feeding at 6 today because the need is so real.
The website is 8 Days of Hope. Spell it all out. And Steve told you just a moment ago there's a button there where you can click to register to volunteer. There is also a button there where you can donate. If you don't have the time, you're not able to volunteer, certainly monetary donations to help the work that are happening at the work that is happening at 8 Days of Hope right here in Mississippi is an option for you as well. Steve, God bless you and all your team and your volunteers. Appreciate the incredible work you're doing to help the people here in the great state of Mississippi.
And thank you for having me on. And listeners out there, viewers, find an organization that you believe in and volunteer or sow into them. Every dollar given to us will be spent in Mississippi, not taken elsewhere. Thank you for having me on today.
Thank you, Steve. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. We're back with you and your messages right after this.
Get home tonight.
From the Venable Glass.
News, interviews, weather, sports, all right here, all morning long. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
A man needs a woman that he can lean on, but my leaning post is done left and gone. She's long gone, and now I'm lonesome blue.
Good to be with you this morning. Thanks to Steve Tybor and all of the folks at 8 Days of Hope for the work that they are doing in North Mississippi. He talked about having bases in Oxford and New Albany, but serving meals in Water Valley, 6 different locations in which they are serving hot meals, and a staggering number. He said over 20,000 meals served since the first day that in the aftermath of this storm. That is significant. That is real. And we appreciate you joining us this morning. We welcome your messages on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. Lot of messages. A lot of messages coming in on the C Spire text line. Love for you to join the conversation. 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. We're going to get to these in just a second. First, though, I want to tell you, got really good news for some of you, perhaps a limited number, hopefully, honestly, a limited number. I was visiting with my friends yesterday or day before at Belk Ford. You've heard me for years now tell you about Belk Ford and Oxford Toyota and the great things that are happening there. Belk Ford has a special offer for anyone who has a total loss to a vehicle. If you had a tree fall on it, if you had other damage to your vehicle related to the storm and you have a total loss, then you are eligible for Ford employee pricing on the purchase of a new vehicle at Belk Ford. They can give you all the details. There's not a specific number where it just means, okay, well, that's 10% off the sticker price, or that's $4,000 or $10,000 or whatever the number is off the sticker price. It varies by vehicle. But if you have a total loss on a vehicle that is a result of damage from this winter storm, all you need is documentation from your insurance company, and if you're able to show that to them, Belk Ford will be able to give you employee pricing in replacing a new vehicle. I promise you. Like, I'll say it one more time. I promise you. Belk Ford and Oxford Toyota are not trying and will not take advantage of you. This is an opportunity that was handed down to them from Ford Corporate, and they will be good to you. They will understand the situation that you're in, and they will do the best that they can for you in terms of helping with financing, helping get you in the vehicle that you want, that you need, that you can afford. Check them out. You can talk to them. If you give them a call, go to belkford.net. You can find the phone number there, oxfordtoyota.com. Good people that are excited to be able to help their community in the aftermath of this storm as well. That's Belk Ford on Highway 6 West in Oxford. All right. Richard, Democrats may be celebrating and taking a victory lap, but this really is a win for the entire state of Mississippi. We don't need to start a precedent of passing omnibus bills. Individual bills are far and away better. Speaker White knew what he was doing, trying to sweeten the pot, taking the good with the bad. It didn't work. Now I hope that the legislature can get together and make some things happen for school choice and for teacher pay raises in separate bills. I tend to agree with you on that message. But not everybody feels that way. Our senator just gave Mississippi over to Democrats for shooting down the Freedom Act. Hope y'all are happy for throwing away our state. That is a strong opinion. It's not one that I agree with, but I don't begrudge you for having that opinion. Andy has been a major proponent of universal school choice, and I appreciate how much Andy has contributed to the conversation. Here he says, how is this doing the people's business? Regarding the Senate Education Committee, the entire meeting lasted about 90 seconds. No questions, no debate, no discussion, no testimony. It's okay, though. The ride is turned within a couple more years. Mississippi will have educational freedom. The teachers' union and special interests can't hold out much longer. True conservatives will win in the end. Andy, you're right about the shortness of that education committee meeting yesterday. It was very brief. Senator Boyd did shine a little bit of light, I think, when she said that while, yes, that meeting was brief yesterday, this is not something where the Senate chose to skip deliberation. I think in the senator's mind on the Education Committee, they just chose not to waste time. They had made their position abundantly clear. They had gone through a number of committee hearings during the off-season of the legislature. They knew where they stood, and so they didn't waste a lot of time on it. knowing what the outcome was going to be from that vote regardless. In terms of true conservatives winning in the end, I think that's a very real debate. I saw on X a little while ago, let's see, Douglas Carswell posted this. And you know Douglas, you've heard him on this program and others. He is with the Mississippi Public Policy Institute. He tweeted, Nicole Boyd literally uses progressive talking points to attack school choice. Why is she a Republican? And I responded to Douglas's message. I said, not putting words in her mouth, but I think what she said was parts of House Bill 2 were not conservative because of the lack of accountability and because of the ambiguity of the dollars that it would require to implement the program. Now, I've also heard from well, I don't want to disclose where I heard this, but I did get a message that said, would be curious to have Senator Boyd explain how she thought the cost was open-ended. There was a fiscal note conducted by the LBO, that's the Legislative Budget Office, for every single section of the bill. She said in her statement that she didn't know the cost, nor was there a fiscal note. That is not the case. And that does come from somebody who's been very involved with this process. I'm going to keep where that came from confidential. Somebody says this has Hoseman's smell all over it. Well, I mean, I don't think there's any ambiguity about the lieutenant governor's position. I mean, he has talked on this show and in other places extensively about what he believes to be right in terms of school choice. He has been supportive of the portability piece, allowing student movement, freedom of movement from public school to public school, but has not been supportive of allowing the public school to private school piece. Jim and Ripley says, Richard, if you keep straddling the fence, you're going to get a sore crotch. You have a way with words, Jim. It's not so much that I'm trying to straddle the fence as I am trying, honestly, really trying hard to be a conduit for conversation about this, because it is an important issue, and it's an important issue that matters to so many people. It's where we kind of started this conversation this morning, talking about the passion that exists on this particular educational freedom issue. And I have had more on the record and off the record conversations than I can begin to count. Background conversations, trying to understand positions from those who are against House Bill 2, against the idea of school choice. I've talked with teachers. I've talked with superintendents. I've talked with legislators. I've talked with public policy people. I've talked with advocates on the pro-school choice side of the issue. When I tell you, I promise you that I have worked as hard as I can to be balanced in our conversations about this. I don't know what else I can do. C-Spire text line. You should have every GOP congressman and ask why they voted for that ridiculous spending bill and didn't join Thomas Massey. Okay. Sorry, we got to the federal level there. Tate Reeves, the governor of the state of Mississippi, has come out with a statement as it pertains to House Bill 2 and it being killed by the Senate Education Committee. We will have that for you on the other side of this break. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for being part of the conversation.
From the city today, Mississippi. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Now back to Mornings with Richard Cross.
Now that's entertainment.
Love is a burning thing, and it makes a fiery ring. Bound by wild desire, I fell into a ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire.
So good. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Glad to be with you this morning. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line. The number is 601-879-4395. Power has failed. In some places, internet has failed. Water has failed. C Spire hasn't failed. Not for me, at least. Not once during this storm. Early on in the immediate hours after cell service got a little sketchy, it never went completely out. Your ability to send messages never went away. They had 200 cell sites that were operating on generator power and never lost any of them. C Spire is committed to Mississippi in good times and especially in bad times. Check them out online at cspire.com. C Spire, customer inspired. Going to get to the governor's statement in just a second. I want to make sure you know about this, though. There may have been others that posted. I saw that Russ Latino posted this as well. Madison Station Elementary School. Apparently a bomb threat was received there this morning. The statement from Madison Station. This morning, a threat was called into Madison Station Elementary School. Law enforcement and first responders are on campus and processing the scene. Students and staff are being relocated by bus to Ridgecrest Church on Old Canton Road. Parents or emergency contacts are asked to come to Ridgecrest to reunite with their student. Parents and emergency contacts must bring a photo ID, as we can only release students to those on the contact list who present proper ID. There are no exceptions. When parents or designees arrive at Ridgecrest, they will be met by a team of the school. Campus will be closed as law enforcement and first responders continue working the scene. We will continue to release details as their investigation develops. Hopefully, it is not a real threat. It is an idle threat. And hopefully, whoever is responsible, whether the threat is real or made up, is found and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I don't know exactly what the law allows, but here's hoping that the punishment is strong and is swift.
Tar and feather. Bring it back for anybody with bomb threats or religious problems or any of that. Just tar and feather them, man.
Yeah.
Public shaming.
Yeah. All right, so here was the statement from Governor Tate Reeves. I read you in entirety the post from Speaker Jason White earlier. I will do the same with the post that the governor made this morning. I have spent the last 23 years fighting the leftists, their liberal ideology, and the Mississippi Democrats' philosophy that government knows best. They believe that people should never be empowered. Only the government should. I have no reason to get mad at the Democrats. They openly believe something very different than me. Their approach is wrong, and we have proven them wrong over and over with our education results. In fact, our quote-unquote Mississippi miracle only started because conservatives took over the House and Senate in 2011, and for 8 years we passed laws that adhered to our political philosophy. That is why, in my 23 years, parenthetically, of elected office, I've never been more disappointed in elected officials than I am this morning in Lieutenant Governor Hoseman and Senator Dennis DeBar. They killed a Republican legislative priority shared by conservatives all across this country, and they worked closely with the Democrats to do it. Even worse, They tried to do it in the dark and hide it from Mississippi conservatives on a deadline day. The Mississippi Senate Education Committee, where conservative priorities go to die and where the Democrat philosophy still dominates. That is a post from Governor Tate Reeves on X. He made that post at 8:08 this morning. I know in Speaker White's post, he cited a majority of Mississippians. And I know in the governor's post there, he talks about this being a Republican legislative priority nationwide. I don't know that the Senate has done a good enough job letting people know. The House certainly has. The White House, Secretary McMahon and the White House publicly endorsed House Bill 2. Here's the thing. The Senate had meetings with the White House as well. And what I've been told is that the White House was very much in favor of the portability piece that the Senate has tried to push forward. The White House wants wins. They want check marks on the tote board or tally marks on the tote board to say another state made a decision that puts children first and gives more choice to parents. Officials in the White House told Mississippi senators and the lieutenant governor that they were okay with the plan that they had. And I don't think that the Senate and the lieutenant governor have done a good enough job letting people know that the White House said that to them. But again, the House and now the governor are quick to point out that the White House was a proponent of House Bill 2. I'm guessing, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing that White House officials did not read the entirety of House Bill 2, may not have read the entirety of the Senate proposals either. They just want to win that they can check mark for educational freedom, period, regardless of the details. I've got that on pretty good authority. But the point that I was making when I said that Speaker White mentioned a majority of Mississippians want this, that's based on polling that was done, and that's how you come up with, a majority want this or 70% want this. We know that. We've been through a million elections. We know how polling works. Maybe it is a majority of Mississippians that want it. But it's not an overwhelming majority. And the idea that you're not conservative or you're not Republican if you don't support House Bill 2 lock, stock, and barrel in its entirety, that you are not conservative enough and that you are not Republican enough, frankly, I'm tired of that line of thinking, and I'm offended by it. I have said over and over and over, there are parts of House Bill 2 that I love. There's some parts of it that I'm not so sure about. Does that make me less conservative? Does that make me less Republican? I have Republican friends, conservative friends all over the place that I live that are not for the passage of House Bill 2. Does that mean they're rhinos? Does that mean they're actually Democrats masquerading as Republicans? That have voted for Donald Trump every time he's been on the ballot. That have voted for Tate Reeves every time he's been on the ballot. That have voted for Nicole Boyd, that have voted for Clay DeWeese. And the truth of the matter is, the House Bill 2 vote put a lot of Republicans in a lot of districts with really good public schools in a very difficult spot. I suppose I cannot prove this. I have been told this by multiple legislators in Jackson that there are people who voted for this bill simply because it was the speaker's agenda and because of the amount of respect that they have, that it put them in a bad spot. And they are hopeful that it doesn't come back to hurt them when election time comes around. That's real talk. There are members of the legislature that are Republicans that wanted to vote against House Bill 2, but they did not vote against House Bill 2 because of their loyalty to the Speaker of the House. I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. I'm just telling you that 100% it is a fact. And so trumpeting how proud you are of the Republicans that stood with courage to do this, or how, this is what a majority wants, it may be a majority. But it's not some landslide majority. It's certainly not 60-40. It's certainly not 70-30. It's really close.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
It's time to switch on.
Mornings with Richard Cross. On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Yeah!
Amarillo by morning, up from San Antonio. Everything that I got is just what I've got on.
One last time with you on this Wednesday morning. Thank you to Lance Tolbert for an exceptional job with the music this morning. Oh, it's been so good.
Oh,
Thank you, my friend.
Oh, you're so welcome, man. It's always fun on a Wednesday.
Yeah, it is. Like, should we turn this into Wednesday, Thursday, or should it be a multiple day thing? I don't know.
Whatever you want, buddy. I got it.
An update from Mississippi State Watch. That is one of the entities that keeps up with every single thing that happens in the legislature. With yesterday being a deadline day for general bills in the Mississippi Senate, 567 general bills died. Obviously, the headline-grabbing one is House Bill 2 and its death yesterday. In the House, nearly 1,199 general bills died in the House for a total of 1,776 general bills that died will not make it to the Capitol floor for debate on either side. So that update from State Watch and my good friend J.T. Mitchell from our SuperTalk Mississippi News team made sure that we had that information. So thanks to him for that. Let's. I really want to finish on the text line today. You have been outstanding this morning. Whether we agree or disagree or kind of agree or kind of disagree, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the interaction. C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. Someone says it's just like the sports betting issue. It seems although they are not concerned with what we think, and if we don't like it, we can get a ton of support and put it a new issue on the ballot for the people. Oh, wait, they took that away from us also. Yes, there is not a ballot initiative process right now. Most Mississippians who I have spoken to do support school choice. However, many of us do not support House Bill 2. It seems that the governor and the speaker do not want to acknowledge the difference. Lack of leadership from both sides, the Senate and the House. There should have been a compromise to move the ball forward. Thomas says he wants Tate to call a special session so that there will be a recorded Senate vote. Keith and Vaden says, with regard to what I was saying about people that I know not necessarily being for House Bill 2 or for public to private, Keith says, Richard, that's because you live in a good school district. I fully and completely recognize that I live in a place that has not one but two outstanding public school districts. But I am far from the only place in the state of Mississippi where that's the case. By and large, the schools on the Gulf Coast are really, really good. Some of them exceptional. You have a lot of really good schools in the Pine Belt. DeSoto County has outstanding schools. Tupelo has great schools. Yes, Oxford has great schools with both the Oxford and Lafayette school districts. I recognize that. But just because you live in a place with a good school district doesn't mean you don't get to have an opinion on this. I think all of us can agree across the board that there is continued work that needs to be done to elevate K through 12 education in Mississippi. One of the things that's low-hanging fruit that has been talked about since JT and Dave were on the radio, and that's been a while, a long while, is school district consolidation, especially at the administrative level. The number of school districts and superintendents that exist in Mississippi is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But that issue hasn't been tackled yet. Maybe it will be one day. What about in the counties where you have school districts that have 200 kids in them total? We may have to consolidate some of those districts to make one larger school instead of having multiple small schools with duplication of resources. And yeah, maybe you need more teachers, and maybe it costs a little bit more for that one school district to function, but you got to tell me it's going to cost more than having 2 or 3 or 4 districts, small districts in a county? We've actually seen really good success in some of the places where you have had district consolidation. If you were painting me or trying to paint me in the light of I'm not for continuing to advance education in Mississippi, that's just not accurate. You can join the conversation, as so many of you have on the C Spire text line. I thank you for that. Hope you have a great day. Know if you're in North Mississippi, there are thousands of you still without power. We haven't forgotten you. We're thinking about you. Hope the lights come on quickly. For Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. Thanks for being with us. Have a great Wednesday.
A Super Talk Mississippi media production.